Dear friends, dear everyone, good afternoon and welcome to our new webinar. As always, I'm so happy and I'm so grateful that you found time to join me during this forthcoming hour where I will talk a lot about our wonderful island, about Cyprus. And now that we are waiting for everyone, I will be very grateful if you can confirm that you can hear me well, but also if you can share where are you now? Are you in our sunny island? Are you somewhere else? This will really, it makes me feel that we're near, that we have a conversation. And actually, I invite you to have a conversation and I invite you to ask any questions you can have. I invite you to ask questions, to comment, so we have a proper conversation. And yes, I can see that you can hear me in Limassol, in Larnaca, in the UK, in Jerusalem. That's what I love about our webinars. It's such an amazing platform to meet from all over the world and to see why Cyprus is attractive. Even though today I will not be talking a lot why Cyprus is attractive, I will be talking more about what is happening in Cyprus now. So, thank you very much. And guys, please, any questions, any comments, the chat is open and I will be extremely happy if we can make it very, very interactive. So, for those of you who don't know me, and you know why I'm saying that? Because there are so many people who come to my webinars again and again. And actually, you are the ones who inspire me to create new topics, to discuss different things. So, my name is Anastasia, and I'm the CEO and partner of Cyprus Sotheby's International Realty. I've been working in Cyprus real estate for 24 years, and I've been living in Cyprus for 25 years. So, like I always say, I'm a perfect blend of professional experience, but also personal experience. How does it feel to move to Cyprus and to build your life here? Cyprus Sotheby's Realty is part of a bigger picture. It's part of Sotheby's International Realty Network, one of the largest international real estate brokerage networks. And in fact, it seems that very soon we will be able to say that we are the largest, because now there are big discussion about the potential merger of our company and another company that is one of the biggest. But so far we are present in 84 countries, and in practical terms, what does it mean for you and me? Mainly it means that we have slightly broader outlook. We always talk to our partners in other countries. We understand the trends. We follow the trends. We understand that for lots of you who are not in Larnaca, Limassol, Paia or Paphos, the whole world is open. So Cyprus is one of the choices. So we have an option to go globally, but also be a local expert. And this is who we are. We are local experts. We work all over Cyprus with developers and private sellers. So we work both on the primary market and secondary market. We are a fully licensed company. We do know our market. We also very multilingual. We speak Russian, English, German, French, Hebrew, Polish, Chinese. We are very, very international company, fully licensed, which is very important when you deal with Cyprus. And I also wanted to invite those of you who have never visited my webinars before or want to know a little bit more about Cyprus. I've been doing the general webinars for a very long time. And then I decided, because I see that lots of people come again and again and again, I decided to concentrate on more advanced level, on more specialized level, so I can cover more narrow topics. But I want to provide you this knowledge about Cyprus in general. So what we've done, I recorded our the webinars with all the fundamentals, and now it is freely available for all of you. I will ask my team to put the link in the chat. So if you want to learn about Cyprus, if you want to understand what are the advantages about Cyprus, what are the tax advantages, permanent residency, other immigration permits, find out a little bit more about areas of Cyprus and property buying process, if you follow the link, it's absolutely free, but there is a registration, and you can watch this educational webinar anytime, any convenient time for you. So, you don't know much about Cyprus and you want to learn a bit more, please follow the link and watch the pre-recorded webinar. So, what are we going to talk about today? What shall we discuss? I want to share with you what is happening in Cyprus now. Who is buying? Why are they buying? What are they buying? What are the key numbers and statistics? What is sales dynamics? What are the buyers' profiles? And also lately, we started receiving lots of requests for mortgages. So during these webinars, I will also share with you what is happening with mortgages, and we'll do the mortgage availability and finances. So I can see the question whether this webinar will be available in replay. Yes, we will share with you the recording of this webinar as well. And first, let's start with what is happening in Cyprus in general, because we understand very well that if the country is doing well, then the real estate market follows. So I'm not a news anchor, and I'm not a political analyst or economic analyst, but I selected the news that, in my opinion, have direct influence on real estate market. So, what is happening now? Cyprus is feeling quite well. The island's economy grew by 3.6% in the second quarter of the 2025, and this result is outperforming the forecast and also many other EU countries. We have amazing results for tourism. If we look in the 2024, then we have over 4 million visitors, and we will check with you what is happening now. The strong service industry is on the increase. Every service industry is showing amazing results. Hotels, IT, and all this drives domestic demand and consumption. And we know with you that if there is more money in the economy, the demand normally increases. Unemployment is at historic low, just 4.7%. And in fact, lots of theorists believe that the 6% is the structural unemployment. There is always unemployment. In fact, in Cyprus, we are facing, I would even say, we are facing sort of labor crisis in some industries. Lots of developers share with me worries that they cannot find people. Lots of service industries like restaurants and hotels, they struggle with finding people. So unemployment is at historic low, and actually the island needs more people to work. This is connected with immigration rules, etc., but this is a thing. So again, all the workforce that we have in Cyprus now, they are all working, being employed, and generating and earning money. And more people, it means more money flowing into economy. Public finances are quite solid now. The budget surplus we have of 4.3% of GDP in 2024, and we have forecast 5% in 2025. What else is important? You know, we have been discussing for a very long time that Cyprus is expected to join Schengen. What does it mean in simple terms? Again, I will never comment on exact timeline. Yes, it was discussed that maybe it will happen this year. To be honest, I believe that it's very unlikely that it will happen this year and maybe even the next year. So let's not concentrate on the timeline. Let's concentrate on what benefits this entry will bring to economy and to real estate sector. It means that if Cyprus joins Schengen area, that there will be free movement within Schengen area for any holder of Cyprus visa or Cyprus residence permit. It will boost tourism and also make the country more appealing for investment and for business, because it will be much easier traveling around. It will also boost the appeal of Cyprus immigration program, which is really amazing. Sometimes it's called Golden Visa. The official name of this program is Cyprus Permanent Residency Category 6-2. Sometimes it is called Permanent Residency by Investment, where by investing 300,000 euro, you and your family can get permanent residency status. Of course, I need to make a disclaimer that there are lots of conversations that the closer Cyprus gets to Schengen area, the higher is the likelihood that the current program will change. So yes, and that's exactly the question of Rami, that whether only the new residency have this free movement or even the old ones who already got it before the agreement. Of course, it will be for everyone, meaning that if you have a valid immigration permit for Cyprus, when Cyprus, let's put still when and if Cyprus joins the Schengen area, it will be free movement of every holder of this permit. So it's very, very important news. And of course, like on a practical level, we do see increased requests for the permanent residency by investment from third country nationals. And third country is everyone who is not Cypriot or not part of the European Union. So we have lots of requests from the UK, from Israel, from Middle East countries, from post-Soviet countries, from all the countries that are non-European, even from States and Canada. We have inquiries for the permanent residency because people want to get the benefits of the program now, and then when and if Cyprus joins Schengen, use the benefits, enjoy the benefits of the program. Now, let's look a little bit at the tourism. Why? Because tourism is very important for real estate sector. One importance is lots of people who come as tourists, they fall in love with the island and they want to come often, get the holiday house, or maybe even relocate. But the second side of the tourist is all the investments properties that we have in Cyprus. We have lots of people, and when I'm going to talk about the reasons why people buy property in Cyprus, I will mention it again. But lots of people buy for investments. They buy the properties to generate rental income, and many of these properties are used as Airbnb style, short-term rentals. We already have the legislation for the Airbnb rental, so it's all clear and it's all above board. And when we see that the tourism is on the rise, it means higher occupancy for the rental properties, and it means more return for the owners of the property. So, July 2025 officially became the busiest month ever for Cypriot airports, with 1.65 million passengers passing through our two airports. Imagine the whole country is 1 million, even a little bit less. So this is amazing news. January to July, Hermes airports, according to their statistics, welcomed 7.3 million passengers. It is 11.4% more than in the same period of 2024. And remember from the previous slide, 2024 was already amazing. Then, very interesting statistics. Okay, guys, I love statistics, so I think that when you know where to look, you can forecast lots of things. So, when we see the biggest flow of tourism, very similar flow is for the property buyers. So, the main market for tourism was the UK market. Then we have passengers and tourists from Israel. Then new country that was not that active, but now we can see it with tourism and with property buyers and tenants is Poland and Germany. Then we have Sweden. I saw someone in the chat was from Sweden, and Romania. So guys, this is an interesting statistics as well. Now, if you don't know, I will share briefly that Cyprus has amazing tax conditions. Very important to understand that Cyprus is not an offshore country. It's a fully onshore jurisdiction, European country with very clear and very beneficial taxation system. Just to give you an idea that if you move to Cyprus, then, and if you, not even when you move to Cyprus, if you become tax resident in Cyprus, and if it's interesting, you can write down the question and I will explain later what it means, then you can benefit from 0% taxation, only small percent for the national medical care, for 17 years, because you will become non-domicile tax residents. For the companies, we have 12.5% taxation, but if your company is connected with IP, with intellectual property, then the tax can go as little as 2.5%. So we have huge benefits, personal taxation and corporate taxation. There is also no inheritance tax, no property tax. And lots of people now are coming to Cyprus or choosing Cyprus exactly for tax benefits, because they want to live an amazing climate, amazing country, but also benefit from good taxation. And the government is discussing tax reform. There is no final decision, so we do not know when it will happen and how it will happen, but I can share some of the known proposed changes. And some of them are very good, some of them are not so good, but still very, very livable with. So for corporate tax, there is a proposed increase to 15% from 12.4. I spoke to lots of company owners, and they say that, okay, if it happens, we will not be moving companies from Cyprus. So I think that this is the change that will be broadly accepted, not without much protest. There is a very silly rule that we have in Cyprus where you have to distribute dividends. You know, like whether you have profit and then losses, you still need, after a few years, distribute. It's called deemed dividend distribution. The proposal is to abolish it. And really good news for those of you who already live in Cyprus, for who is not non-domicile resident, or if you have a company that is if you're not a non-domicile, then now you're paying 17% defense tax, which is quite high on dividends. The proposal is to move it down to make it 5%. So again, the proposals are quite good or not as bad as they could be. So it seems that this attraction of Cyprus as good taxation country will stay. Okay. Another legislation that was already accepted and that is really beneficial for Cyprus is naturalization for highly skilled employees. Unfortunately, it was good for Cyprus, but unfortunately the reason why it happened was because of wars, where thousands and thousands of companies and thousands of highly skilled employees moved to Cyprus, and they became vital part of economy. They take kids to school, they go to the restaurants, they work, they pay taxes. So I think there was a challenge how to keep these highly skilled employees connected to Cyprus for longer. And the government introduced the legislation that if you have a special immigration permit for a highly skilled employee, you can apply for Cyprus citizenship after 3 or 4 years based on the knowledge of Greek. And because of this change, we can see that the lessons of Greek, like it's the most popular subject ever. Now, lots and lots of classes, but also we can see that all these young people, all these young families, and sometimes not so young, they now see themselves living in Cyprus permanently. If they get naturalized, they stay here, and we can see them moving from rental accommodation to bought accommodation. So again, direct correlation with real estate. And I can see the question about permanent residency. This is permanent citizenship. So first, permanent residency. I mentioned for you that in Cyprus we have a very good program for permanent residency for non-Europeans by investment. And it is granted to investors, spouse, investor and dependents up to 25 years. There is no language exam, no medical test, no interview, no tax consequences unless you want to have the tax residency. And the threshold for the investment is 300,000. If it's a property, if it's residential property, then there is VAT when applicable. Okay. So let's move this, we don't need. Now, so we looked briefly what is happening in Cyprus and how these changes affect the dynamics on the market. So let's have a look in general, and I will be very happy to share presentation with you if you want to see the numbers in details, but now I will just go through. So 2024 was an excellent year. To be honest, when I was doing my webinar in January, and that was analysis of results of 2024, my thought was that the rate of growth will be reduced. But what we can see is that it's still very active. The sales, in the number of sales, are up from last year by 13%. I always do this slide to see how this demand is distributed between the areas. And if you don't know the areas, please watch my recorded webinar. It is like, there are lots of details, but we can see that Limassol and Nicosia are leaders, and then we have Larnaca, Paphos area, and Famagusta is the last one. But let's see how the demand is distributed between foreign buyers. In Cyprus, every sale contract is registered or should be registered, and this is your legal protection. So the sales contract has to be registered in the land registry, and this data is openly published. So we see with foreigners increase in numbers as well, 15% compared to last year. And again, here we have distribution. Foreigners tend to be more by the sea. So Paphos, Limassol, and Larnaca, they are leading the way, and Nicosia and Famagusta a little bit lower numbers. Domestic sales are also very active, are also on the up. It's 12% increase. And if we look a bit more details, the European sales, that was a big increase. And remember, when we had our slide about tourism, we looked at you that there is a big increase of tourism from Poland, from Germany, from Sweden. So Europeans are buying more in Cyprus. We have 25% increase compared to last year. Again, mainly by the sea. And Paphos and Limassol, these are the areas that are most popular. And if we look non-European, again, very positive dynamic. We have 9% increase compared to last year. And here we have Limassol is number one, and then we have Paphos, Larnaca, but still by the sea. So what can we comment after viewing these numbers? That market is very active, there is strong demand, but we can see that it's not a bubble demand. We can see that it's a realistic demand because we could see the economic factors that influence this demand. Now, if we analyze very, very briefly what are other market trends, new builds overtaken resales in terms of transactions. So more people are buying new build properties compared to resales. Medium and high-end segment are becoming the main driver of growth of the property transaction. Limassol is the leader. It is really high with the transactions. And now more and more people are paying really careful attention to the quality and modern standards. And that's the reason why there are more new sales compared to the resales, because the standards of construction changed a lot. Like, I've been working in the real estate for 24 years, and the standard of constructions are so much better now. So that's the reason why it's happening. And the competition is always going for quality, prime location, and the improvement of the product offering. Every quarter, we publish very interesting report where we ourselves analyze data from the land registry, and we analyze only residential property, houses and apartments, and we analyze the volume, but also the value and the split by property transactions. So again, so far for apartments and houses, the estimation that by the end of the year, the numbers will be higher compared to the previous years. Again, we'll be very happy to share with you information and to share with you our report. So if you want to get a copy, you can just again type in the chat report and we will send it after the webinar is finished. Now, we checked with you that the economy is doing really well. We can see that the demand is there and that the number of transactions is very active. But now let's see who is buying and why are they buying. Okay, so here it will be a bit like I think that I hope that you will enjoy this information. Okay, so why are people buying in Cyprus? And we have some traditional drivers, some traditional reasons. Of course, the biggest one is that Cyprus is an amazing country. Like today, we have plus 26. The sun is shining. The sea is warm. The fruits are amazing. So it's like, of course, the big reason is lifestyle. And people either move their families or they buy holiday home. On top of this lifestyle, we have amazing taxes. I briefly touched them. We have amazing taxes for people, but also for businesses. So businesses are relocating. We have wonderful immigration programs. So permanent residency is again a big driver. And of course, investments. Then this year, I would say that we have a big increase within our company where people already came to Cyprus. They already bought a lifestyle property, but now they can see that the numbers are good. And I could see that there was a question about rental return. The very conservative would be 3 to 5% rental return. But if you optimize that, it will be even higher. There are other investment vehicles where you can get 10-15%. So it's like investment climate is really good. Okay, so we also have additional drivers of demand. Opening of new universities. We have in Paphos beautiful new university, American University of Beirut, which start functioning, and it's very busy and the feedback is great. Naturalization of highly skilled employees, headquartering of companies, and now after COVID, after political and economic turmoil in most countries, people just want to live healthy and comfortably. They just want to enjoy life. They want to go to school with their kids. So it's like we can see that this is a huge reason why people move. Also, don't forget that now you can work online. Young people, and we will cover this as well, they love working online. They can be digital nomads anywhere, and lots of them choose Cyprus. So these are the main reasons why people are buying in Cyprus. But now let's see who is buying, from what countries. Of course, this information is not really, the land registry doesn't give this information. But because we are quite a big company and we have very high volume of sales, we always analyze within ourselves. So this year, we had more than 25 countries whose residents were buying properties. And you can see the geography is huge. We have Russia, Israel, Germany, UK, China, Canada, Sweden, Belgium, Italy, France, Malta, Norway. So you see, it's again a just amazing sign that Cyprus is attractive to so many people. And this is actually also a reason of protection in a way of real estate market. Because if the country depends only on one market, if something happens with this market, that's it, the market collapses, everything goes down. In Cyprus A, the size of the market is very small, so it's more difficult to move it completely, to completely crush it. And also there are so many countries, so if one market, if one country stops, another one will come. Okay, so this was interesting and fascinating. Now, let's go even a little bit deeper, a little bit further. Who is buying? Why are they buying? And in marketing, there is this the sort of the profile of buyers. And I thought it was interesting to share with you because, again, maybe you will recognize yourself. Maybe you will recognize that, what? I'm one of these buyers. Shall I consider Cyprus as well? So the biggest one is we have lifestyle buyers. And it's families, people of 46. I will ask marketing to remove it. Middle age doesn't sound good. So young people of 40, 60 years old, with or without children, plus retired couples who are coming for amazing lifestyle. Okay, and they have very solid budget, 300 to 1 million and higher, because they want lifestyle and the quality of life. The biggest new category that we haven't seen before, I would say that this is probably the last 2 years, these are young family. Okay, we can call them new generation or young family. It's like when we have young couples, young males and females, girls and boys, who from wide geography, from all over the world, they know how to make money. They are either in IT or they have their own business, and now they all move from their rental accommodation to permanent residence because, again, they are savvy. They don't want to pay rent. They prefer to own the property, and then if something happens, they will rent it out and make money themselves. And within the budget is between 300 to 2 million and plus. And then we also have, of course, the buyers who are coming because of taxes. And here we have, again, from all over the world, they want to save on taxes and the budgets are quite high. And investors who like either coming early, meaning that they want to get to projects with the best possible quality, with the best possible price, because if you buy early, you get the best price and the best choice of properties, and then you get best return on the money as well. And they're looking between 300 to 500 per unit, but there is variety of choices and variety of ways of making investments. Now, we know that investment, if you use leverage, if you use bank financing, the return is even better. But also, even you're buying for yourself, it's good to know, can I borrow money in Cyprus? Good news is yes, you can borrow money in Cyprus. And in fact, this year we developed very close connection with Bank of Cyprus and with Hellenic Bank, and they provide to our clients really good terms of financing. And the big part is also that they can do sort of pre-approval, so you know how much money you can borrow. We have full presentation. Again, I will ask you if you want to receive full presentation with lots of details. type more mortgage or loan. Let's do loan, it's easier. Loan in the chat, and we will send you a separate presentation for the mortgage. But in the big picture, the good news, as I mentioned, it's possible to get a loan in Cyprus. You need to have your personal initial contribution. You need to have enough money to cover between 30 and 50% of the value of the property, depending on the reason why you're buying and your immigration status in Cyprus. So for your personal property, it can be as little as 30%. For investment property, it can be as high as 50%. So bank will use their discrepancy and their rules depending on the purpose of the loan. Duration of the loan, the maximum is the 20 years or until the borrower reaches the age of 65 years old. And they have different type of products. They also offer loans in different currency. Of course, to be honest, it's always recommended either to take the loan in the currency of your earnings or in the currency of where you are buying, okay? And here, it doesn't really depend whether it is EU citizen or non-EU citizen. I can see the question here. The maximum percentage of the loan is about 70% now. So the bank will give you up to 70%, but again, everything needs to be discussed with the bank. The current rate for euro is, hold on a second, they use European Central Bank base rate plus margin. And the rate depends on the amount of contribution. So if your personal contribution was less than 6%, less than 35%, then it's 6% plus, so it's the rate of UCB plus 3.4%. And if the contribution is higher than 35%, then it is the rate plus a smaller margin of the loan. Of course, you will need to have life insurance, you will need to have house insurance, and the bank provides it. And it's also possible for foreigners who moved to Cyprus. Also, if they're non-EU passport holders, they can also apply for the bank. The bank charges small fees for the loan, but again, I think within our today's presentation, we do not need to go into these details. Okay? As I mentioned before, we developed the roadmap to mortgage together with Bank of Cyprus. So as long as you understand that you have all the documents ready, or better to say that you can provide the documents, we can understand together with you and the bank what would be the financial capacity. So you know how much money you have for initial contribution, and then we will check with Bank of Cyprus how much they can give you in the loan. Based on this information, you can choose the property and then submit full application, get loan, and enjoy the property. There are a couple other things that I want to mention that is very important to know if you're thinking about buying property in Cyprus. And I saw that there were questions about VAT, and I will leave time at the end of the webinar and I will try to answer all the questions. But what I want to draw your attention to, now we are in a very interesting situation because we are living in the time with two rules for VAT. VAT in Cyprus is 19%. But if you are using the property for your personal use and it's the only property that you will be claiming the benefit, that under certain condition, you can get benefit from the government, and you will only pay 5% instead of 19%. So you have saving of 14%. And now we have two rules based on the time, based on the certain documents. You also need to remember that VAT in Cyprus applies to all the new properties, but also there is a small amount of resale properties that are subject to VAT. So if you are buying the resale property, meaning that it was already used, but it is quite new, so it's less than 5 years after delivery, you need to raise a question. Is there VAT on this property or not? So this is important. Now, let's look about these two rules for the VAT. As I mentioned before, it's only for physical persons. The beneficiary has to be over 18%, and the property that you want to get reduced VAT has to be for the personal use in Cyprus. It cannot be rented out, so it cannot be used as investment. Only one property at a time can benefit, and it is not allowed to rent property with reduced VAT. It means that, let's say you bought the property, got 5%, the benefit is given for 10 years, and then after 5 years you decided, you know what, I want to rent it out. Fine. You refund to the government the proportion of the benefit for the remaining 5 years and start renting out. So it's all quite easy. Again, not the point of today's webinar to go into details. If you want to get detailed consultation, please book free consultation. You can see on top of the presentation the red button, book free consultation, and we will be very happy to assist. Also, you can always subscribe to my Instagram and leave me a direct message, and I will be very happy to answer any questions or point you in the right direction, and we will share my Instagram details as well. So, going back to VAT, now we have two different rules, and the difference is based on the time of planning application. So, if the planning application for the property was before October 2023, then you can get 5% reduced rate on the first 200 square meters on the new built house, regardless of the size of the property and regardless of the value of the property. But if you're looking in the property with the planning application after end of October 2023, then we have big restrictions, meaning that the reduced rate will only apply to the first 130 square meters, only to the value of 350,000. But the biggest thing is that the property cannot exceed 190 square meters and cannot be more expensive than 475,000. Meaning that if you buy a property with a value of 500,000 and the planning application was after end of October, you cannot get the 5%. It will be full 19%. So always, if you're buying new property, like my team would always inform you about it. But if you're buying the property, always check old rules or new rules. We prepare these VAT incentive checklists so you can use it when you are choosing property. And another thing which was good, this is the new reform for planning and building permits speeding up, the new process in the government, when for the smaller projects we expect to get the permits much faster. Okay, now before we go into questions, let me please introduce you to our wonderful team. We, as I mentioned before, we are working all over the island. And you see, we have fantastic team. We always work through the values of what we give to you, and we provide to you our expertise, our efficiency, our ethics and style. And our main expertise is, of course, with purchase and buying properties, selling property, renting property. So our expertise is investment in lifestyle, personal properties, buy to let, various skills and uses, early bird strategy, participation in construction, or flip strategy. So if any of these is of interest, then we will be happy to assist with and this is how we work. The first, we would always have with you a free online or offline consultation in one of our offices. We have full office in Paphos, Limassol, Larnaca, new office is opening soon, one more office opening in Cyprus, in Paphos in November. So if you're here, it will be physical meeting. If you are online, then we can meet online with an expert where we will discuss your goals, if Cyprus is suitable for you, what are the specifics. Prepare everything for your trip overviewing itinerary, help you with the documents ready for the bank, immigration, planning the trip, help you and assist you with all the viewing, selecting properties, sorting out the paperwork. What is very important, as I mentioned, we are fully licensed, and in Cyprus, the buyer is not paying commission to the agents. All the commissions are always paid by the seller. So it's good for the buyers. Then we guide and assist you through the whole process of buying property. And I can see question from others. Of course, we work with commercial properties as well, and also with land. So have it in mind. And we provide full after sales and relocation service. So it's not only that we're here with you when you're choosing, we're here with you all the way. I also know that very often my colleagues, other agents watch my webinar. We will be very happy to work together with you based on referral. As part of our social and professional responsibility, we share the knowledge and we do lots of publications. So we have beautiful publications that already some of you requested. This quarterly report where we analyze residential properties, transaction value, volume, data per region. Very, very happy to share with you. Again, if you haven't left the message in the chat, you can always text me in Instagram. I love chatting in Instagram. So if you want to have a direct conversation, please send the message there. Another publication is Island Life, where we share information about Cyprus. And we've done lots of previous webinars, but I'm actually thinking maybe to restart advanced series, and we can discuss it a little bit later, remind you about our recorded webinar. And we finally came to the points of questions and answers. So now we'll try to see all the questions that you have, and I will ask you for one more favor before we finish, and you can do it together with the questions. I really want to make my webinars very useful for you, and I want you to tell me what are the topics that you want me to cover in details. So if there is any topic, any questions that you want to find out more and you want to have it in the style of webinar, you can write it in the chat, and then I will analyze it and prepare the webinar specifically for that. So now let's start the questions. We see many big projects selling units before a planning permit has been approved by the authorities. What is the normal timeline for receiving such permits, start building and deliver the units if it is a big project with hundreds of units of closed community? Very good question. And in Cyprus, the process when you start a project, you need two major permits. And the most important is the planning permit. However, there is no prohibition to start pre-sales for the project even before the planning permit is received. However, for all our clients, and we've done it very clear with all developers, when we do such agreements, we only do the conditional agreement, and the payment, the main payment, is only done and is always subject to receiving planning permit. So what happens that you can secure your unit, because at that time the price is the best and the choice is the best. So you secure the price, you secure the unit, and you are fully guaranteed that you will not pay big money and then something happens with the planning permit. So this is my advice. With regards to timeline, it depends depending on the complexity of the project. And because of the VAT changes, we have seen huge delays with the issue of the planning permits. Sometimes we have seen stretching for over 1 year, but now they're speeding up. And also, when the planning permit is approved, or even if the developer receives feedback that it will be approved as is without any changes, they can start groundworks, they can start clearing the grounds, etc., etc. So they can legally start some minor works. But the main works, of course, are going after planning permit. With regards to the timeline, it depends again on complexity of the project. Just to give you an idea that if we're talking about one house, and it can be big villa, then the developers usually take between 16 months to 18 months. The same goes with the small projects. Let's say if we're talking about one block of apartments of, let's say, 6 to 8 units, again, the developers normally would ask 16 to 18 months. If we're talking about hundreds of units, then here the timeline until completion can be 2, 3, and maybe even 4 years. But all the timeline should be in the sales agreement. And to be honest, this is the value that we as agency are providing for the buyers. We know what should be looked at and what should be covered. But always, of course, you always use the legal, you always use lawyers if for the preparation of the contract. For new properties, we also have in-house lawyer and we help as well. Okay. Possible for individual meeting. Here, of course, so we will be very happy to arrange meetings, book your free consultation, or contact me on Instagram. And yes, Fred, of course, we work in Ayanapa. We work in every area in Cyprus. So we cover Paphos area, Limassol area, Larnaca, Famagusta, which is Ayanapa, Protaras, Paralimni. We are not as active in Nicosia, but we have some presence in Nicosia as well. But mainly, I would say that we are on the coastline. Okay. I answered for the loan. Okay, let's go. Question regarding permanent citizenship. Are you asking about permanent citizenship or permanent residency? Because I can see sometimes there is confusion in these terms. The biggest difference, the citizenship, is you get a passport. You become a citizen of the country. So you can vote, you can work, you can do absolutely everything. This is the route now is only by naturalization, meaning that you need to live in the country And then when you live in the country, pass exam and get citizenship, yes, your children and your spouse can get citizenship as well. If we're talking about permanent residency, what I was describing with the investment of 300,000, then yes, the program covers investor, the same investment amount. You don't need to do investment for every person. The program covers investor, the spouse of investor, and the children, dependent children, up to the age of 25. By dependent, we mean that they're students, they're not married, they're still, you can show that they are studying. Okay, question. What apartment sizes are the most demanded now in economy and premium segment in Limassol and Paphos? Okay, I would say that historically, and if we're looking statistically, the biggest number of apartments sold are still 2-bedroom properties. And I would not say it's more for business class, 2-bedroom apartment. For premium, I would say that the majority would be 3-bedroom, but of course, 2-bedroom are still very, very popular. So if we're talking statistic-wise, I would say two-bedroom apartments would be the most popular. The size-wise, 2-bedroom standard apartment would be around 85 square meters, between 75 to 90 square meters covered area plus veranda. Okay, so investment in a resale apartment over 300,000 euro is eligible for PR, or it always conditioned by paying VAT of 19% on top of it? Very good question. It's if you want to buy property for permanent residency by investment, the program restricts you to buying only properties from developer. So it has to be first purchase and it will be subject to VAT. And you know, if you think of it, it actually makes sense. The government is making these programs to increase foreign direct investment into economy. And if it's a resale, the government of the country doesn't really get much money into economy. So that's why for permanent residency, you need to buy a property from the developer. So developer pays all his employees, which is direct impact to economy. There is VAT, so it's actually very logical. So if you want permanent residency, the fast track category, then it has to be new one. There is also another immigration permit, which is called category F. And in my recorded webinar, I talk about it. For that category, there is no restriction. You can buy resale apartment and it doesn't even have to be 300,000. The difference is that it takes ages to receive this permit, and also your children, as soon as they turn 18, they lose it. And also there are some other differences as well, which I will be happy to our experts to discuss at the private conversation. Okay, really good question from David about title deeds issues. Have they been addressed? We still have a backlog of old properties, and old properties were the ones that had more issues. The new properties, they, in certain areas, let's say in Limassol, now the title deeds you can get much faster. We still have backlog, but the problem is not as bad as it was before. Meaning that there are less problems with the banks in most, like now actually, you cannot buy a property with a mortgage without knowing that there is a mortgage. Meaning that there are strict regulation by the government that before you sign the contract, it has to have the search from the land registry. So just this, it's not fully solved, but yes, it has been addressed a lot. Okay, so Let's see. What are the rental returns for villas and apartments on key markets in Cyprus? Like I think I mentioned before, and I will repeat it once again. On average, look between 3 to 5%, but of course they can be higher. If you enter earlier, you can get higher returns. Which markets other than Limassol would you consider for residential investment from capital appreciation perspective? Actually, I would say that it I would consider any city, but I would be very careful with the area within the city. So I wouldn't go just to Limassol or just to Larnaca or just to Paphos. I would really concentrate on specific areas within these cities. Why I would look at different cities? Because budgets are different. In Limassol, you will only be able to make investment if you have higher budget compared to other cities. Like what I like saying, that if, let's say, if we take the apartment, let's imagine that this is an apartment and we move this apartment to Limassol, immediately it will be the most expensive. We move the same apartment to Paphos, it will be a little bit less. We move same apartment to Larnaca, it will be a little bit less. And we put same apartment to Protaras and Ayanapa, and it will be a little bit less. Okay. How does residential premium segment feel this year? Mid-rise apartment buildings, say in Yermasoy, and apartments in high-rise buildings, price dynamics, deal volume, future supply. Actually, this segment is feeling really, really well. Yermasoy has always been popular. Of course, we can see that because of the price point, lots of demand moves from Yermasoy elsewhere because just like prices are becoming too high. So like lots of people, they start with Yermasoy, but then they move to different areas just because of the price point. Where are the main uni located for studios investment? The main one would still be Nicosia, but we have several new universities in Paphos, so this is happening quite a lot. How long does it take? Again, I would say for permanent residency. In the description of the program, it says 3 to 4 months, but it's not happening now. It's about 6 to 8 months. Okay, I think I'll go now to the new questions, and I will try to answer as much as possible, and I'm sorry that we're already over 1 hour, but put me plus if you want me to keep answering. Okay, so question from Philip. Information on pink slip and requirements in relation to pink slip. Okay, pink slip is the temporary residency. This is the status that you need to renew every time. So pink slip is temporary residence when you need to show enough income and you need to have reasons why you're in Cyprus. Again, Philip, I recommend you register to the pre-recorded webinar, or we will send you detailed information because there is quite a lot, okay? After how many years do you get citizenship? If I'm not mistaken, now if you're not highly skilled employee, it's after 8 years. Non-dom status for the UK residents moving to Cyprus after UK changes on to tax on worldwide income tax. Okay, this is actually, we have many people moving from the UK now because of their tax change, okay? So yes, if you move to Cyprus, you can become tax residents if you, in Cyprus we have two rules. If you either stay in Cyprus more than 183 days, or we have a short route as well. If you stay in Cyprus more than 60 days, if you have a company or business activity in Cyprus, if you have a permanent place to stay in Cyprus, and if you are nowhere, if you are not spending more than 183 days in any other countries. Of course, UK is different because UK is very tricky with how they count their residence as tax residents. And you will need to check in, if you intend to visit UK, you need to check with your tax advisor in UK specifically for you. How many days is the maximum days that you can stay in the UK so they can release you? Are those ready projects? Oh, we have lots of different projects. Is it required to have a certificate of completion approval before delivering an apartment to a buyer? What is usually the timeline for achieving such qualification? To my knowledge, is not always a, do you mean a certificate? Oh, sorry, I think I confused with energy certificate. No. To deliver a property to a buyer, very often you don't get the final certificate of completion from the government because of bureaucracy. It takes long time. So very often you will be delivered property before the certificate of final approval, and in Cyprus it's okay, provided that everything was built according to the permit. There shouldn't be anything, but unfortunately the practice is that the property are delivered before the certificate of final approval. And again, guys, it's fine as long as you have solid developer, as long as you have solid contract of sale where all these things are covered. Okay. If it is an ongoing project, what would be payment procedure? Yes, if you're buying the project under construction, it's always in installments. So like the first payment would always be about 40% that covers the land cost, and then it will be in stages according to the construction. Is there a risk of overbuilding in Cyprus? I don't think it's as much a risk of overbuilding, even though I think that some area, because market in Cyprus is quite fragmented, and yes, maybe some areas run a risk of overbuilding, but at the same time we have the areas which are underbuilt. So I think as long as there is town planning in action, and as long as developers don't go crazy, then I think that we should be okay. I'm a big believer in the market wisdom, but yes, maybe in certain areas, I think that we are on the verge, so we should be careful. Okay. Do we need to pay extra for spouse and children? If you're talking about permanent residency, you don't need to pay extra at the point of investment, but yes, you need to show your income. Because when you submit application for permanent residency, you need to show that you have annual income. If I'm not mistaken, it's 50,000 per year for a main applicant, and I believe that it's 10 or 15,000 per spouse and children. Okay. To what extent prices of Euro 10 to 18 square meters in high-rise building in Limassol are sustainable from your perspective? The market will decide. When the towers just appeared in the market, honestly, I personally was thinking like, my God, how can it be sustainable? At that time, it was connected to the program Citizenship by Investment, which was not, it was excellent program, but it was not, there was no end user of the properties. So that was a question about sustainability. Now we have end users, and we can see we can see very high demand for good quality high-rise buildings in Limassol. So if the project is successful, and some projects are, some projects aren't. Please don't ask me during the webinar to ask which projects are successful in my opinion, which are not so much. Ask me in private and I will share this information. in the successful projects, we can see big demand for remaining units, but also for resales. And the resales are in certain levels higher. They are sold at higher prices when the original ones. So as long, again, I'm going back to, I believe in the wisdom of the market, as long as we have end user and as long as we have demand for these properties, everything is sustainable. If, let's say, I hope it will never happen, but if big earning companies will move from Cyprus and move their stuff, then we will need to have another conversation. Okay, which areas are at risk of overbuilding? I think in every city there will be certain areas where the developers are going too crazy. Okay, so thank you for answering. The concern was transportation and infrastructure. Traveling to work, Cyprus sounds like the UK. Okay, in some areas, not everywhere. Like, I personally, I live in Paphos. For me, it's still 10 minutes to school, 15 minutes to work. But sometimes when I go to work to Limassol in the morning, where it's school run, it's crazy. So I think the concern is that I really agree with you, Arthas. It's not so much as overbuilding as the infrastructure. So I think this is the point that the municipality and town planning authorities have to address. Okay. How strong is interest from Israel and Asia today? The interest is very strong. The interest, again, like what I was showing earlier and what I like, it's not one country. Again, it's fascinating to analyze. Like, I do lots of analysis of our data and analysis of the market in general. It's fascinating to see like how certain areas, certain cities attract different type of buyers and even different nationalities. Okay, so very good question. Can my wife and I invest jointly? Yes, of course. You can invest jointly. There are the limits. Everything is the same. An interesting thing, I find it fascinating because I think in most countries you can put like the proportion of ownership. To my knowledge, in Cyprus, if you buy jointly, it's sort of jointly, so it becomes 50-50. So I find it very interesting. Okay, I think that will be the last question of the day. Guys, thank you so much for making this webinar amazing, because like now I really felt like we had a conversation. Thank you for being here for so long. And I just want to invite you to visit us. Visit our beautiful island. Visit our team in our offices. Even if you don't want to buy or sell or rent, even if you just want, hold on. Even if you just want to, visit us and have a cup of coffee, we will be very, very happy. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you in Cyprus soon. And a biscuit, 100%. Bye guys, thank you.